It's a big puzzle we put together. Fish puzzle.
Fish puzzle.
Yeah, put the fish puzzle together here.
We got to watch Rick Lack set up his booth. Pretty cool stuff.
What's that?
I said we got to watch Rick set up his booth.
Yes,
pretty cool stuff.
Pretty exciting. Kept us awake for 2 hours.
Yeah, we got to help carry some stuff in and stay pretty busy. This is where are we at? What
I
time
had
is
my
it?
hands on the Minnesota State record. Closest I'll ever get.
Wow. This is what happens when you get to the show 7 hours early.
Yeah, and you're tired and ready to fall asleep already.
Yeah. So that's where we're at right now. Sweet.
What is up, Yins guys? Welcome back to Fishing PA with Ryan Reed. Guys, it is officially muskie show season across the entire muskie range. So guys, what I wanted to do in this video, I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you my experience from the 2022 Ohio Musky Show. Now, a lot of people ask me, why do you do these reviews on these shows? Why do you carry your camera around? Why do you take pictures? Well, guys, my first video that I did on an official review for Muskie Max, it was more of like a review style. But that's not really my goal for these videos. What I really want to do is I want to show you guys my experience at the shows, and I really just want to highlight how awesome these shows are, and really to show you guys what type of experiences you can have there. You know, I have had multiple people reach out to me and say, hey Ryan, I've seen your video on this particular show. I'm so happy I saw that because that prompted me to go to the show, and I had such an awesome time. And guys, I have so much fun at these shows. This is why I want to do this. I want to highlight the Ohio Musky Show and give you guys some of my personal highlights and just kind of share with you my experiences. So that's what we're going to do in this particular video. So guys, again, the goal here is to talk about the Ohio Musky Show, talk about the services that are available to you guys at these shows, like guide services. We're going to talk about all of the gear and musky lures that were available.
Awesome paint.
Yeah. Really nice.
Join up.
And we're going to highlight some of the opportunities to learn from very talented local fishermen from our area through these types of seminars.
I'm not charging you guys for this information. I'm just going to throw it in because I like you guys. So
again, that's my goal. I just want to share with you guys how awesome these shows are and hopefully get you guys a little bit more pumped up for Muskie Max and the New York Muskie Expo, as those are going to be coming up here in a few months. Now guys, I just want to take a minute and talk about this before we get into the meat and potatoes. I just want to mention that show season for me is just super special. I love this time of year. Not only do I love fishing in the winter, but I love getting out to these events and talking muskie fishing. I love looking at products, I love listening to seminars, and I love the opportunities to talk to some of these extremely talented fishermen in our local areas. That's what show season is about for me. I love this stuff. I get super excited about this stuff. I get pumped. I go out and I stand in line 7 hours before shows start. I drive 3.5 to 5 hours to get to shows. I'm all in on show season. I love it. Now, one thing I do want to mention, Ohio, again, is a small venue. It's a very intimate show. There's not thousands of people running around like you would have for like a Muskie Max or a New York Muskie Expo or like the Chicago shows or like the Odyssey. It's just smaller, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't pack a punch. I've had a number of people reach out to me and just say, hey, I just wanted to check, how was Ohio? Weren't sure if we wanted to make it out. We weren't sure, you know, just it sounded like a few unknowns. So what I want to say about these shows, guys, muskie shows, you basically get out of them what you put into them. These shows can be super awesome if you're willing to put the time and effort in. if you just show up and you look for one booth, it's not there, and you turn around, you walk out and say, this sucks, well, you're not taking full advantage of these shows. So when I heard that like Ohio just didn't have as many, big hitter vendors, I call bullcrap. And the reason for that is there was a lot of awesome guides like Rock On, again, Tony Grant, Greg Thomas, Chase Gibson. You have a lot of like right off the bat, Thorne Brothers, dude, 20% off select items. Like for example, Sims, you don't get 20% off of Sims anywhere. Thorne Brothers did that. So when you look at these and you see Thorne Brothers and you see these charters and you see bait makers like Ziggy, a legendary bait maker from the state of Michigan, like, dude, they may not be like the Zach Bakers and the DKs of the world, but this show packed a punch. And it was well worth getting out there and walking around that show, grabbing some food, talking musky fishing for a couple hours. The price of admission was not that bad at $15. And I just want to say that, again, for show season and these particular musky shows, they are what you make them to be. You will get out of them what you put into it. So for me, after thinking about this and thinking about some of the comments that I've made and I've heard, this show packed a freaking punch, and it was awesome. So much so that I actually begged and pleaded with my wife, Deanna, to take me back out there on Saturday, which I was able to do and spend a couple more hours at the show. So I just wanted to say that really quickly. Before we kind of get into some of the stories and meat and potatoes, just from a spectator standpoint, get out there, check these shows out, take advantage of them. We didn't have them last year, and it sucked. Having Ohio this year was 1,000 times better than not having Ohio last year. I can guarantee to you that. So if you guys have watched my channel, you guys know that Dan and I love show season. We love going out super early to these events, getting there like first in line, and really kind of just enjoy that rush of running into the building and trying to find all the stuff that we're looking for. So again, with Ohio and with COVID, things have changed a lot. We didn't have shows the last year or so. In this event, there were several vendors that just didn't show up to the show, or they had to cancel due to COVID. And that's just unfortunately the world that we live in. So Ohio, to begin with, is kind of that smaller venue, intimate event. And that's what makes this very, very cool. You guys get more one-on-one time with like guide services and like legendary fishermen like Tony Grant, Greg Thomas. And, it's just a really cool thing to have that small type of classroom environment for those seminars. So Dan and I, point blank, we had heard that Zach Baker was going to have some of the Baker lures out at Steve Gold's booth, the Trophy Time Leader booth. So Dan wanted to get out there super early to get in line. This was not something that I was that interested in doing, to be quite honest with you guys. I'm tired. I have done this enough to where I don't necessarily feel like I need to stand in line, but I thought it was going to be a fun day. I agreed. Dan and I left the house probably about 3:45 in the morning. We made the 3.5-hour drive out, and we were sitting at the Macoy Center around 7:30 a.m.
Where all the trailers are. Woo! Let's go!
So with that said, we were on site, with the vendors, first thing in the morning, in line, ready for the Ohio Musky Show. You guys do the math? That was 7 hours. Crazy. I was exhausted before we even hit 10 o'clock. So what did this allow us to do? Well, we got in line. And then the other thing is, like, Greg Thomas always has like some really cool, like, older versions of Musky Hunter magazine like this for you to read. So he'll hand you some magazines. But then he kind of also hands you like the latest edition of Musky Hunter, which I have a subscription to. I get it on my phone. I have it on my mobile apps. But for this particular like event, it was pretty sweet that Greg, was there. He was there early, and he was able to hand us a new magazine for us to take a look at and read. And that really helped pass the time for this show. So that was kind of clutch. And I was super pumped that Greg did that for us and kind of just pointed out that he had some of these magazines laying around. So one of the things I wanted to touch on with this, I just thought this was super cool. You guys know that I have a good relationship with Mark King over at Keystone King Musky Lures. You know, Mark King makes like dive and rise jerk baits. He's really known for his glide baits. He's got a couple different models, and he started making some twitch baits. Mark's a super awesome local fisherman and just a local bait maker. You know, he's the type of person that he'll just reach out to you and take you fishing.
What are you screaming for?
I'm pumped. That's a good fish, dude.
Just a really solid, family-oriented guy, and I have like the utmost respect for Mark. So when I was reading this Musky Hunter edition, I happened to find the new product showcase, and I wanted to show you guys this. So if you guys can see right there where it says secret weapon. So the secret weapon is actually Mark King's, one of his newer glide baits that he developed. So as I was sitting at the Ohio Musky Show waiting in line at like 7:30 in the morning, the show opened up at 2 p.m. I got to read this awesome article in Musky Hunter, and I also got to see like the new product showcase on Mark King's secret weapon. So I got to send him a text message and just said, hey, here's a picture. I thought that was just super cool. You know, Musky Hunter to me is like that staple magazine, and when you see a local guy in there, I just get pumped up. All right, guys, so when you're sitting at these shows, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're sitting in kind of the entryway of the Makoi Center, and vendors are coming in and out. There's guys that are setting up that day. There was guys that set up the day before. Well, in this case, we were there so early that Rick Lax from Lax Reproduction and his son Landon actually kind of showed up that morning, and they were going to set up their booth. So as Dano and I were sitting there, you know, Greg Thomas came to the front, Lax came around with the truck and trailer, and, you know, Rick came in and he said, hey, do you know if Greg has any helpers, anybody that can kind of help us unload? And it was one of those things we're just talking to him. We ended up helping Rick and his son Landon out, just kind of unload their truck. So this was a super cool experience for me. And again, you guys know that I really geek out when it comes to like these vendors and like seeing all these guys in these magazines and like the services they offer. You know, Rick Lax and that muskie with the saddle on it, those are just like, to me, those are just like show legends. Like that muskie gets around to like all the muskie shows, and I've seen countless pictures of kids on there. I want to take a picture with that dang muskie so much, but I'm just so old and heavy. Like, I just don't think it'll ever happen. But like at the same time, you know, this is just a legendary thing for me. So the opportunity to be able to help Rick Lax unload and just kind of set up some things, this was awesome. Super pumped about this. So what we're able to do is we're able to help, again, Landon and Rick. We help them unload. And then at some point, like Landon was like, hey, do you mind helping? So, you know, set up some of the booth stuff. So I didn't do a lot. It wasn't a lot. But what I was able to do is kind of help Rick. He's got some back things going on right now. He's in a bit of a brace. So I was able to kind of help hold some of these mounts while he drilled and put them on and set up the booth. But what was really cool about that is, you know, even though we didn't really do much, we just helped unload, and it was just fun. It was something for us to do. You know, Rick and Landon, they're just the type of people that they want to take care of guys that do stuff like that. So, you know, not only was it just such a cool thing to watch Rick and Landon put that booth up and just drill all those muskies and the bass and the walleyes into the display. I mean, it was just, that was awesome seeing that go up. But it was cool to help them out, and then it was even cooler of Rick to kind of hand us some gear. So Rick actually handed us a T-shirt. Hopefully you guys can see this. You know, the Lax Reproductions T-shirt. We got an awesome little koozie. Love the koozies. Sweet deal there. We got a little hat there. You know, Rick gave us a hat, Lax, and a buff, which you guys know I've been wearing a ton of these throughout the fishing season. So, you know, again, these are like cool things that I will just always remember, right? Like being there super early, like 7 hours ahead of the show, and getting to like help Rick Lax and like Landon just set up their booth and carry things in and just be a part of that. And again, it helps pass the time. So, you know, this T-shirt, I will wear that thing all summer long, and I'm just super pumped about the buff and the koozie and the hat. And I can't thank Rick. I can't thank you enough for that. That was just such a cool thing to be a part of. So thank you guys for including us, and you know, we were more than happy to help, and I did not expect anything like that. We're just super pumped about it. So thank you guys very much. That was super awesome. We greatly appreciated it.
How many hours of sleep you get last night? I caught that giant yawn. I think I might have honestly only got about 47 minutes of sleep. What do we got? We got 3.5 hours. 3 hours?
3.5, yeah.
3.5 hours left. We can do this.
So guys, after being at the show for all those hours, you know, we essentially got to check some of this stuff out, just talk fishing. Our good friend Charlie Mueller showed up. He's a secretary over at our Three Rivers Chapter 16 Muskies Inc.
You want to give us a synopsis of Muskies Inc., Mr. Secretary?
I'm not prepared with this face now. Not right now. This is.
And also, you know, I fished with Charlie a good bit. He's a really good friend of mine. And it was just cool seeing guys like that showing up to the show early.
You ready to go? You ready to go? It's almost go time. Almost.
Huh? His wife isn't going to that one to help, so I'm just to help.
Getting in line, and you get to, again, you just get that chance to kind of talk musky fishing. So Tony lines us all up after we pay. It was $15 for admission for a single day. There were options for multiple days, which I think that's a cool thing. So Tony kind of shoots the guns off. We start at 2 o'clock, and everybody rushes to Steve Gould's Trophy Time Leader booth to check out the Zach Baker Musky Lures.
Jake Morris. I'm not going to get any bakers. First thing he does, straight to the bakers.
So, you know, again, that just kind of kicked the show off. It's just fun to be there for that, the start of an event. And from that point, you know, my game plan was to hit the booths I wanted and really talk to the guys I wanted to and just make sure that I could get some good food and then be sitting in the seminar room for the 2 seminars that were happening on Friday.
What do you got? What do you got there? Cheeseburger.
Yeah, cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger, hot dog, hot dog. This is one of my favorite parts of the Musky Show, Dan. We get to eat all day. Let's go.
So a lot of guys asked me, what was my draw to the Ohio Musky Show? What gear was I looking for? What the heck was I doing there? Well, so I looked at the vendor list and I really put together a list, and I do this for every show. I just kind of write down some notes like, oh, I want to make sure I hit this seminar. I want to talk to this person. I want to look at trips from, you know, Rock On Charters, or I want to do, you know, I want to look for these baits. Well, I had my notes and I kind of cleaned that stuff up and I shifted things around. And guys, what this boiled down to me this year for Ohio was one particular booth and one particular vendor. And the particular vendor that I was after their lures this year was Ziggy and Ziggy Musky Lures. Now, I fished with, you know, a charter out of a lake here in PA. One of the fish that we had caught on that charter was like a 43-inch fat muskie, and that was on a 10-inch Ziggy. Okay, so since that fish, I have had multiple people, and I've seen multiple people and heard multiple people catch fish on PA reservoirs with these baits. Now, Ziggy is a legend in the state of Michigan. He is a legend on Lake St. Clair. The 6-inch, the 8-inch, and the 10-inch Ziggies is kind of what I was after. Now, after talking to some guys at the show, I had already purchased 2 10-inch Ziggies prior to all of this. I had determined that I really wanted to focus on the 6-inch Ziggies and the 10-inch Ziggies. So what I did was I spent a lot of time in the Ziggy booth. I asked a lot of different people in that booth questions about color, and I got the opportunity to really sit down and talk with Ziggy himself about these lures and color selections and all of that. So this was a super cool thing for me, and I loved this about the Ohio Musky Show. I loved being able to talk to this legendary bait maker in Ziggy. And it was cool because on the table at their booth, they showed you the history of the Ziggy Musky lure. And there was some pictures and diagrams of how these things are made and cut in half and through wired. And it's just such a cool thing to see that stuff, guys. I love it. I eat that stuff up. So I spent a ton of time in the Ziggy booth. And what did I come out with? I ended up with one 10-inch Ziggy. You guys can see that. Very sweet. There's Ziggy on the lip. This color is called Illusion. This is kind of like a white base with the black dots and lateral line. And then you got yourself a chartreuse belly. So I just thought this was different. This was different than what I have. I have a perch and a carp pattern. We'll try the white with the black and the gray scale. Hopefully this will help me contact at least one fish this year. But such a cool bait. You know, they're reasonably priced for the process. So then I had talked to a few other guys, and it was like, it's all about the 6-inch. It's all about the 6-inch. So that's what I did. Couple things here. I want to talk about this. So that right there is a 6-inch dog turd. This is what Ziggy is known for, is the dog turd pattern. This is a wooden 6-inch bait. I had to have it. You know, this is what this guy is known for. Had to have it. Got a couple other patterns here. This is going to be my Chautauqua Killer. Chautauqua Killer. So we also got, this one's very cool. This one has local roots for me. He calls this the dog balls. You guys know Dale Wiley does the dog balls. I think he was the creator of the dog balls pattern. Ziggy had one, so I had to have it. I also picked up, we're going to call this guy Leo Boat. Not going to tell you anything more about this color. I talked to Ziggy. You know, I wanted to get something shad or crappie related. This is a crappie pattern I picked up. Pretty sweet there. When I asked Ziggy, hey, I need one particular bright pattern for these PA reservoirs, he told me to go with this particular frog pattern. You guys can see that real good. It's yellow, some black dots, some green scale, and an orange belly. Absolutely awesome. I'm super pumped to run these things. We're going to see how they do. I've heard that you have to tune them a lot, especially after you catch a fish. Point being, if I caught a fish and there was a fish in the bag, I will tune that freaking lure all day long if I have to, if it keeps putting fish in the bag. So super pumped about these baits, guys. These were the only baits that I bought. Now, I will say one other thing with Ziggy. I had to ask him for a picture, so I did that. I got to take my picture with Ziggy. What I'm going to probably do here is I'm going to start working on kind of this like hang bait thing where I'm going to get like this black or this clear case, and I'm going to put some of these baits in. And for that, you know, I picked up one of Ziggy's, again, the dog turd pattern on a 6-inch, and I just asked him if he would sign that for me. So I got Ziggy to sign this bait for me. He put Ziggy 2022. This bait's going to go in a case, and I'm going to do the same this year. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to beg Dale Wiley for a signature on a dog balls. I want to get Todd Leopardi to sign one for me. I want to get a signature in a perch bait from Brian Boyer. You know, just some of these like bait makers that I just like fell in love with their products, and some of these are like locally owned and made in Pennsylvania. So I'm going to do that. You know, I might chase after a Latiano for that. We'll see how it goes, but this was like a huge deal. You know, these legendary bait makers, guys that I have so much respect for. When you know, somebody like Ziggy, I don't know. I just met him the first time. But his story and the history of these baits, like, that's just all stuff that it just makes me super pumped. So that's what I did. Those were the baits that I picked up. These are the baits I'm going to fish very hard this year, in addition to all those other ones I just mentioned to you guys. So check out the Ziggy stuff. They've been catching fish on St. Clair and Michigan and everywhere else, and they 100% will work on our PA reservoirs here. All right, so I want to talk about Thorne Brothers for a second, okay? Because everybody's like, oh, we don't have any huge big hitters here. Well, Thorne Brothers, in my opinion, okay, I just want to say this. First of all, thank you, Thorne Brothers, for coming out on site and being a part of the Ohio Musky Show. I don't know if anybody's going to see this video, but thank you, Thorne Brothers. We really appreciate you guys being there, and awesome, awesome deals you guys brought us. I got this sweet hat, okay, first and foremost. I'm not ever taking this thing off, okay? I freaking love this hat. Thorne Brothers, it's like knitted. It is just super comfortable, and it was super warm, and it was like on sale for 20 bucks or whatever it was. So, guys, you know, you can get hats, you can get whatever else. They bring a ton of gear. Like, they bring rods, and musky lures out the wazoo. Another really awesome thing, I'm just going to say this again, Simms. Like, Simms Gear is one of the leading companies on just outdoor fishing gear, right? We all know that. Well, I have never once in my life seen Simms Gear for 20% off. I have not seen that at all, actually. Thorn Brothers, they had the exact jacket that matched my exact bibs that I purchased last year. And not only did they have this jacket, but it was 20% off. So I got the Simms Challenger insulated jacket for 20% off. And again, you know, this thing is just awesome. It matches my bibs. I couldn't be happier with it. And this was one of those things that I didn't even see on day one, guys. Like, I had no idea, because I was so focused on like musky lures and like rods and all this stuff. Like, I didn't really see that until day two, whenever Deanna kind of came with me and took me back out there. So, you know, that was a killer deal. Not only that, but they had discounts on like really awesome baits like Duff 30s, like Matlocks and Headlocks, you know, the Supernatural baits. They had a ton of rubber there. They had the beaver baits. They just had like every possible bait that you would want to buy from them. They had all the St. Croix rod combos. They had all the killer reels. They had killer nets, like the RS nets. They had all, just like every piece of musky gear that you could ever want to look at a musky show. Thorn Brothers had it. Talk about a big hitter in Thorn Brothers. You know, for the guys that want to look at those like Booker baits and the cheaper style musky lures that aren't custom made, guys, this was your opportunity. This was such an awesome thing. I freaking loved it. I loved every second of being in that. I'm not even going to call it a booth, because it was a giant enclosed section of the floor that Thorn Brothers had. So, you know, again, clothes, hoodies, gear, baits, all this stuff, Nip-X, whatever you wanted. Whatever a Thorn Brothers has, they probably had it there. And they had Lakewood boxes, and they had bump boards. And I know guys like Dano picked up a new bump board. He didn't have one for his boat. That means I could probably leave my bump here until I actually buy a boat. But again, it's just one of those awesome things. It gives you the opportunity. So thank you, Thorn Brothers, for being an outstanding company. I will, you know, after seeing them at the show so many years, I have, and this is no way a shot at the Musky Shop, but I have preferred to shop at Thorn Brothers, and I will continue to shop at Thorn Brothers, because they are willing to do these types of shows. They will come out to Ohio and they will be a part of that, and it just makes it extra special. So again, thanks, Thorn Brothers. Thank you guys for being out on site and bringing your products out and giving us an opportunity at some discounts and things like that. That just made Ohio even more special for me. Guys, another heavy hitter to me at the Ohio Musky Show, simply Musky Hunter magazine. Tony Grant, Greg Thomas, they had a booth there. They had a gentleman running that booth that was just super awesome to talk to, made everything super easy. They had hoodies, they had hats, they had release gloves, they had subscriptions, they had books. I picked up the second edition of 25 Can't Miss Musky Patterns. You know, this was like $20. I picked that up. I also got a Musky Hunter buff, if you guys can see that. They had, again, release gloves and all these like t-shirts and just really cool stuff. And you guys can see back here, I don't know if you see this, but I actually bought this before the Ohio show. I'm into like weird things like this, okay? This is a stuffed muskie. I laughed really hard at this show because Dano and the gentleman at the Musky Hunter booth, we were laughing. He was saying, oh, my English Bulldog carries this thing around everywhere. It's like a dog toy. Here I am, a grown man at the Musky Hunter booth staring at stuffed animal muskies. Why? Because I'm crazy. Doesn't matter. I love it. It's sitting on my shelf behind me in my display. I have a stuffed muskie and I couldn't be more pumped about it. But these are the types of things, you know, if you have kids and they want to get a stuffed animal, you want books, you want, you know, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, gloves, whatever. Musky Hunter brought it. They brought the subscriptions. They were offering deals on the subscription. And again, without these shows, like without vendors like Musky Hunter, Greg and Tony, These things make the show more special. So I really love the Musky Hunter booth there this year. It was super awesome, and I did pick up a few things. So couldn't ask for, a better section for Musky Hunter to be in. All right, another big hitter to me. Okay, this is just me, my opinion. I feel as though Steve Gold in Trophy Time Leaders and Musky Lures is a huge hitter for the Ohio Musky Show. Steve Gold, an amazing person. Super down to earth, just fantastic fisherman. He will share information with you guys. He's just such an awesome human being. I love talking to Steve. So we hit his booth for the Bakers early. I checked out a lot of his gear. I buy his leaders. I love his leaders. I have like the 3 or 4 foot trolling leaders. I feel like that gives you guys an opportunity to really look at some terminal tackle like leaders. He does a lot with even some like small wire stuff, terminal tackle in general, and then really take a look at these like homemade musky lures that Trophy Time and Steve Gold are putting out. I just think vendors like Steve, being as down to earth as they are, being as willing to talk about musky fishing as they are, I just think that is a super huge deal. And I just want to say thank you to Steve Gold for having your booth and bringing your products and being a part of that Ohio Musky Show. That made it even more special for Dan and I. In addition to you actually bringing some of the bakers out for guys to look at. So thank you, Steve Gold. We appreciate that. Guys, there were a lot of booths there. There were just a lot of opportunities to pick up products. There were booths that Stealth Tackle had. Stealth Tackle is another terminal tackle area, but along with Stealth, there were also Boss Shad lures in his booth, and he also had Musky Mayhem tackle. So the Stealth booth was like 3 different vendors with the Stealth tackle, the Boss Shads, and the Musky Mayhem tackle. So you guys know Musky Mayhem tackle. Okay, you guys know the Backlash podcast. Jeff from TRO and Brad and Carrie Hoppy from Musky Mayhem Tackle, they have that podcast. Well, episode 7 of that podcast, they brought 2 brothers on. I don't know if you guys remember, but if you go back and you look at episode 7, they actually had Joe and Jake Badick on, and those are local fishermen from the state of Indiana. Okay, so Joe and Jake have been fishing Musky Mayhem with Brad and Carrie. They've been, testing some of their products. We actually had the pleasure to interview Jake and Joe on the Musky Hunks podcast a few days before the Ohio Musky Show. Okay, so I was super excited about this. Literally, I have so much respect for Joe and for Jake. These are 2 young musky fishermen. They are just super talented fishermen. They love the sport of musky fishing. They love muskies. And you can just hear that when they talk about it. They're just super passionate, and they're just super down-to-earth human beings. I absolutely love that about guys. And when you have those combinations and they're brothers, they're actually brothers fishing together, to me, that makes that scenario super special. So we interviewed them. We did the thing on the Musky Hunks podcast. You guys can check that out. We're going to post that next week or here in a couple of days. But after talking to them, I found out Jake was going to be there on Saturday. Well, I was at the show on Friday with Dan. We got there super early. We had to leave, before 6 o'clock or around 6 o'clock. Just exhausted, tired, that 3.5 hour drive home. So I wasn't sure that I was going to make it back out there Saturday to talk to Jake. Well, after I talked to Deanna and we kind of made plans to go back out on Saturday afternoon, I instantly knew I wanted to head to that Musky Mayhem / Stealth Tackles / Boss Shad booth and get out there and talk to Jake. So we get into the back room, and I'm kind of standing right on the other side of the booth. The booths run down the aisle. I was on the outside of the aisle. And I turned to my right, and Jake is standing right there. And he's like, "What's up, man?" So we started talking, and we got to talk to Jake for, it felt like forever. I got to talk to Jake and just talk about musky fishing. And then, through the afternoon, I kind of went back over to the Musky Mayhem tackle booth. And it was just such a cool experience because he had a couple of grenades left. And if you guys don't know what a Musky Mayhem tackle grenade is, you need to go out to their site and take a look at these things. Joe and Jake have been field testing these. I think Jake got some fish on them. It was just such a cool thing to be able to talk to Jake in person 2 days after we talked to him on a podcast about this bait, to stand in the booth and talk to him in person while he's showing me the grenade. To me, those are things that I value about these shows. That was such a super cool thing. So it was cool meeting Jake in person. I was like super pumped about it. Those guys are just awesome fishermen. I hope one day I get to fish with them at some point. We will see how things shake out. But bottom line is, Musky Mayhem had tackle there, Boss Shad had tackle there, and Stealth Tackle had tackle in that same booth. To me, big hitters. Awesome products that catch tons of fish and help you to maintain your lures to catch fish. So, guys, you know, I had to touch on those because that was just another part of the show that I really, really appreciated. All right, guys, now there were a lot of other vendors at the Ohio Musky Show. I just want to touch on a couple more. So first and foremost, I want to talk about Lungin Lures. Lungin had a full spread at the Ohio show. They just purchased Alley Cat. If you guys remember Alley Cat Musky Lures from Ohio, Lungin just picked them up. In addition to that, they had their 22 longs, their 22 shorts, their Chad Shads, and a bunch of other products in a bunch of colors. They had an awesome spread there. So kudos to Lungin for at least providing people with a lot of options at these shows. That was a cool little highlight, especially if you fish those baits. One booth that really stood out to me was the B&N Tackle booth. B&N makes a ton of products. Again, they have like that grubby slasher. They have the Talon shad baits. They have a lot of cool custom colors. They do a lot of different things. The B&N Tackle booth was just such an awesome addition to the Ohio Musky Show. I love that booth there. Now, also, in addition to B&N, Extreme Lures were there. Extreme Musky Lures. Now, the guy from Extreme, he's been putting out a very solid musky lure that is very cost effective and cost friendly. Now, one other one I really want to talk about right now is Josh Marshall. Josh Marshall and Marshall Custom Tackle. Josh is a super awesome dude. I really like his family-oriented approach. You always see pictures that Josh posts throughout the year with his kids on fish. And, you know, Josh is just a premier bait maker in the state of Ohio. He's a really awesome painter. He does crankbaits, he does jerk baits, and he does glide baits. He's got a number of products in his lineup. And I just really think that Josh as a vendor contributes to the overall like positivity and that positive vibe of the Ohio Musky Show. So kudos to Josh for coming out and bringing his gear. I hope he sold a ton of products because he's just a stellar, outstanding human being. Guys, one last vendor I want to highlight from the Ohio Musky Show, and that was Red October Baits. The Hans Man was there as well. I just thought it was a very cool booth that they had set up. I got to talk to Mr. Mike Frethold on Saturday.
What are we doing, mid area or show?
Michael Frethold.
About some of his bait making and just kind of musky fishing. That was a cool thing. And it was just one of those like really awesome booths. I actually picked up, and I don't even know where I put them. Hold on, I will grab them. I actually picked up a couple of harnesses. I picked up some of these rigs for the tube. So if you guys can see these, I just thought this was an interesting ad. So I bought a couple of tubes, the 7.5-inch Ninja tubes on TRO, and you know, you kind of need a couple extra harnesses or rigs to go with them. So that's what I did. I picked up these rigs. You guys can see that there. These are just cool. They fit, you know, the tubes go right on there. And then also I bought a couple of like blades to just add to the bottom of those. So if you guys can see that okay, what you do with this, you hook this towards the bottom of the actual tube rig, and when you pull the tube in, this blade kicks and kind of gives it that, you know, that like that extra blade action when you're ripping that bait. So those were kind of a couple of cool little terminal tackle things. I really love that booth. Just some really awesome rubber combinations, and those guys are like always more than willing to help you and to put solutions together and to, you know, really help you with techniques to catch fish on their baits. Now guys, there were other vendors there. You know, there were other booths. I actually went around and took pictures of every booth in that building. You know, Crash's Landing had an awesome setup with tons of gear, baits, nets, all that stuff. Crash's, you know, again, like there was a Shimano booth right next door to them. There were just a lot of cool like products there in general. There was Boggs Custom Lures. There was Matt's Reel Repair, DeLong Lures, True Grip, Lapper Lures, More Musky Lures, Adam Custom Lures, Crossbone Baits, and Sledgehammer Lures. You know, so guys, there were just a ton of booths there. You know, some guys didn't show up because of the COVID stuff, but there were more than enough opportunities to buy products. One last thing I want to talk about here from a vendor standpoint, the Lunge Lodge. Oh my God, what a spectacular booth that was. That was such a cool thing. They had books of pictures, and they had just like all of these like awesome scenery pics. They had reproductions of the actual, like some of the muskies that have been caught there. I mean, it was just like a very cool booth to have. So it's like one of those destination things. You know, we go to these shows and we get ourselves super excited about these trips, and we think about all these things that we want to do, and then you get to see some of that and then kind of play with pricing. So, you know, the Lunge Log, there were other vendors there. So you just really need to go out to these events, and you need to spend time and talk to each one of these vendors, and you need to support the guys, you know, that do really great things. And it's just a cool way to go out and spend a Friday and a Saturday surrounded by muskies and muskie fishing and just talking muskies in general. Guys, I just want to take a minute to talk about the seminars that happened at the Ohio Musky Show. At 4 o'clock on Friday, we actually had Captain Matt Firestein from Whopper Stopper Guide Service up on Lake St. Clair. And then at 6 o'clock, we had Chad Harmon. Chad Harmon is a local Ohio muskie fisherman and now guide. He's taking trips and he catches a ton of fish. So right there, you know, between Lake St. Clair and the Ohio lakes, 2 really good resources for seminars. Now on Saturday at 11 a.m. they had Chase Gibson. At 1 p.m. they had Greg Thomas, and at 3 p.m. Ken Trail. So, you know, between Friday and Saturday, if you guys look at those 5 individuals that did seminars, they are absolutely awesome resources for muskie fishermen to learn from. And these seminars give you a lot of like high-level, great information that you can take and ask these guys more about later on at the show. So I just want to point that out. You know, these seminars are a huge draw for these muskie shows. Again, it gives you that opportunity to get educated and learn as much as you can about the sport of muskie fishing. Okay, just quickly, guys, 2 other things that I have to talk about here, just because I thought they were super cool. Number 1, we had to leave early on Friday because we were both exhausted and we just wanted to get headed towards home, get some food in us and get headed towards home. Well, there was a seminar that I really, really wanted to see with Chad Harmon. I think it started at like 6 o'clock on Friday, and we were going to miss it. You know, it was just one of those things. We had to bail. Dan wanted to stop at one other place while we were out there. That place closed at 6, so we had to leave with enough time to get there. However, Chad Harmon, again, I don't know if anybody's going to watch this video, but Chad Harmon, what an awesome thing you did by Facebook Live in your session. I literally watched your session from the car on the way home. It was awesome. I wish every single muskie seminar was done this way, was done in person with some incentive to be in person, but offer like a Facebook Live session. That should be a standard thing. I would love to see that at Muskie Max. I would love to see that at the New York Muskie Expo. I would love to see that, you know, at some of these other, you know, shows throughout the country like Chicago and the Odyssey and all that stuff. I just think that is a great way to make yourself available to talk about the sport of muskie fishing for guys that just can't be there. I drove 3.5 hours one way, essentially 4 times in 2 days to be a part of the show, and I just couldn't be there for that particular seminar, and I was still able to see it. So Chad Harmon, if you see this, I don't know that, and again, anybody's really going to watch this video, but like, super thank you for you doing that and putting it on Facebook Live. That was probably one of the coolest things I've seen with a show season in a long time. So thank you guys for doing that. So I'm not really the selfie type. I mean, every once in a while I'll snap a selfie of a hat or whatever, a cat maybe, me and a cat. I did that this morning in case anybody was wondering. But, you know, there's just certain people that I have like super amounts of respect for. And you guys are going to laugh at me because I told Dan I wanted to do this year during show season. And I had Deanna actually take the picture for me because she knows like there's just certain people that I just really want to get a picture with. And this particular person, you know, I was able to do like the Ziggy picture thing, but this particular person, I've been like trying to work up the fortitude to ask her for a picture, and that person was the Musky Queen herself, Vicky Banks. Vicky is always doing raffles at the Ohio Musky Show. She's always like confined to that really small little corridor area where you can buy raffle tickets. Finally, on the way out on Saturday, I grew a pair and I asked Vicky for a picture. So here is that picture of me and Vicky Banks. It's just one of those things. She's like the iconic musky fisherman from Kentucky. I've seen like a lot of her big fish. I know she's fished with like Fat AZ and Vance up on Chautauqua. I've just heard so many like stories. Like one year we actually went to Cave Run and we stayed at Tony's place and fished out of Dan's boat. And that was during like the spring bash or spring fling, whatever that was. And I heard like so many stories about Vicky and just fishing, and just it was like cool being a part of that, but I just really wanted to get a picture with her. So I accomplished my one show season goal and I was able to get my picture with Vicky Banks. So I just thought that was a cool thing for me, and just to integrate with this video. So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. It was just a fun little thing that you can do at show season and take pictures with these people that you almost look up to in the musky world. So one thing I do want to say, I really just want to take the opportunity to thank Tony Grant and Greg Thomas for putting together such an awesome show at such a cool, unique venue in Ohio. You know, the Ohio Musky Show, to me, it's one of like the top 3 or 4 shows that I would hit during the year. And it's just one of those things that I really appreciate all of the hard work and effort that goes into putting something like this together. So I don't know if any of these guys will watch this. You know, again, this is my way to just kind of share my experiences and talk about these shows and just try to help guys see this stuff through my eyes. So maybe it'll prompt you to go out and hit these shows. But Greg and Tony, thank you guys for everything you guys do for the musky community and for the Ohio Musky Show. We greatly appreciate that. And I'm just super pumped to get out there and support this show every year. And also like Musky Road Rules, which we have coming up here in Pittsburgh in a few weeks. So yeah, again, I just wanted to thank Musky Hunter and Tony and Greg for putting on such an awesome show for us. All right, guys. Well, in closing, I hope I provided you with enough video content, enough snips and pictures, and really just like enough communication on the Ohio Musky Show. Okay, my goal is to just show you guys again like how awesome these musky shows can be. You know, I ran into a gentleman that was from Pittsburgh on Saturday that said, hey, I saw one of your videos from a few years ago. Like, I wasn't sure if I should come out or not, but I just kind of got in the car and came out. Well, you know, that person, I got to talk to him and just kind of explain my same viewpoint on it. Like, it's completely worth making the drive, especially this time of year. You know, so guys, like, I hope I gave you some insight into just how awesome these shows are. You know, I can talk here, and a lot of people, like, I understand that my opinion really doesn't matter, but just take it from somebody that really loves show season and loves being a part of these things. Like, you really do. You get out of it what you put into it. And it can be just such an awesome day to talk musky fishing and be surrounded by muskies in general. So I have so much respect for the Ohio Musky Show. I really look forward to this event every year. I was thankful that I could spend the time with Dano. You know, made that 3.5-hour trip out in the car on Friday, and then the 3.5-hour trip home. We just got to talk fishing and share all of our purchases and talk about our plans and the trips that we want to take. And then I was like super thankful that my wife Deanna, like, just jumped in a car with me on a random Saturday afternoon and drove literally 7 hours round trip for me to spend another hour and a half at the show to just take pictures and buy a couple other things and to just really take full advantage of it. So guys, you know, again, I can't be any more thankful for these types of shows, and just thankful for all the hard work and effort that goes into these. So for everybody that was involved with the Ohio Musky Show, thank you all very much for making that such a special event for bums like me and just for the fishermen in our local areas. It's really appreciated. So looking forward to the Ohio Musky Show 2023. We're going to say screw COVID. It is going on, and hopefully we can get through the rest of this show season with Musky Max and the New York Musky Expo. And there's lots of other shows. I just talk about the ones that are in my general vicinity here in the state of Pennsylvania. So guys, I'm going to keep taking advantage of this. I'm going to keep learning as much as I can about muskies and musky fishing. I'm going to keep making and just, making friends in the musky world. It's just one of those things where I want to take advantage of every opportunity that I can to be a better musky fisherman. And these shows will really help you make progress in a positive way towards those types of goals. So again, if you guys have any questions for me about anything we talked about the Ohio Musky Show, in general, leave me a comment. If you guys were there, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys thought about the show. Again, it's in the eye of the beholder, if you will. It's one of those things where everybody has their own, essentially opinions on the shows. But just leave me a comment. Let me know how things went. And I'm super pumped to do this again for Musky Max. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope everybody is out there enjoying winter. We've got tons of ice here in the state of PA. I know lots of guys that are out there ice fishing, doing like hard water tournaments and stuff like that. So just want to ask everybody to be safe out there. Pay attention to your surroundings. Take care of each other. Just be kind to each other out on the water. Help each other when we need help. And just be out there and enjoy the great outdoors and enjoy the sport we love and catch lots of fish. So I hope everybody is staying healthy and happy. I hope each of you guys continue to do that into 2022, and I am really looking forward to getting back into making some content. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button for me. Subscribe to my channel if you like this type of forum, just sitting down talking about the sport of fishing. I will do my best to continue to put out videos for you guys. And somebody told me I need to stop moving my hands so much. It's the little bits of Italian in me. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to keep doing crazy things like this as I continue to talk about the sport of fishing. So, all good. At this point, I will just say, tight lines. We will see you next time.